You are currently failing a test that you do not even know you are taking. It happens when a conversation suddenly goes quiet. It happens when someone gives you a look that lingers just a second too long. It happens when you state an opinion and the room responds with absolute silence. In that agonizing split second, your brain panics. You feel a desperate, biological urge to open your mouth, to explain yourself, to laugh nervously, or to fill the empty space with useless words. If you surrender to that urge, you lose. You have just signaled to everyone in the room that you are weak, insecure, and easily controlled. To understand why this simple mistake strips you of all your power, and how to instantly reverse the dynamic, we must look at a terrifying lesson from the darkest corners of Renaissance Italy. In the early 16th century, Cesare Borgia was the most feared commander in Europe. He was the very man who inspired Niccolò Machiavelli to write The Prince. Borgia did not conquer his enemies merely with swords and cannons. He conquered their minds long before the battle even began. In the winter of 1502, a group of rival noblemen formed a conspiracy to assassinate him. Borgia discovered the plot, but instead of immediately arresting them, he invited their leaders to a peace conference in the town of Senigallia. The conspirators arrived heavily guarded, expecting a tense, screaming negotiation. They expected Borgia to be angry, making threats and demanding answers. Instead, they walked into a room of absolute, suffocating silence. Borgia sat at the head of a massive wooden table. He did not stand to greet them. He did not smile. He did not say a single word. He simply stared at them with cold, unblinking eyes. The silence dragged on. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a full minute. The conspirators, who were ruthless warlords themselves, began to unravel. The tension in the room became violently heavy. Because Borgia gave them nothing to react to, their own minds began to torture them. They started talking nervously. They began offering unsolicited concessions. They tripped over their own words, desperately trying to fill the void and appease the silent monster sitting across from them. By doing absolutely nothing, Borgia had shattered their psychological defenses. He had measured their courage, and he found it empty. Later that same night, he had them all quietly strangled. Borgia understood the ultimate dark truth of human psychology. Silence is the heaviest psychological weight a man can carry, and if you force someone else to carry it, they will eventually break. Most people think that power is loud. They believe status is all about dominating the conversation, speaking brilliantly, and proving how smart they are. This is a tragic illusion. True status is entirely passive. Respect isn't given to the person desperately trying to control the room. Respect is surrendered to the person who doesn't need the room at all. This is a hidden biological mechanism of human nature. We are instinctual, primal creatures, and our brains are constantly scanning for signs of neediness and vulnerability. When you rush to fill an awkward pause, you broadcast internal anxiety. You're telling the other person that their silent disapproval is enough to destabilize your nervous system. You're proving that you are a slave to social comfort. Every single interaction you have contains a shifting, invisible hierarchy. Your exact position in that hierarchy isn't determined by your clothes, your money, or your title. It's determined by your emotional baseline. The person who is least affected by the silence always controls the person who is most affected by it. This is the silent test. People aren't measuring your intellect. They are measuring your composure. They are throwing invisible probes into your psychological armor to see if you'll flinch. A delayed text message, a passive-aggressive comment, a blank stare. These are not accidents. They are calibrations. If you scramble to fix the tension, you hand over your power. But if you absorb the pressure without moving a single muscle, you become terrifying. Let's observe this brutal dynamic in a very common, everyday scenario. You're at a social gathering, or sitting around a table with extended family. Someone makes a passive-aggressive remark about you. Perhaps it's a subtle dig at your career, your relationship, or your lifestyle, thinly disguised as a joke. They smile as they say it, and a few people around the table chuckle. This is a critical psychological juncture. The silent test has just been activated. The most common, catastrophic mistake is the immediate, defensive reaction. Your heart rate spikes. You feel the sting. So, you force a fake laugh to show you can take a joke. Or worse, you immediately start defending your choices, launching into a nervous explanation of why your career is actually doing great. You think you're standing up for yourself, but what did you actually do? You just proved that they're tiny. Insignificant words have the power to control your emotional state. You justified yourself to them, placing them in the position of the judge, and you in the position of the defendant. You failed the test. Now, let's look at the Machiavellian alternative. The passive-aggressive remark is made. The table chuckles. You do not laugh. You do not get angry. You do not defend yourself. You simply stop what you are doing. You turn your head slowly, lock eyes with the person who made the comment, and you look at them with an absolutely blank, unreadable expression. You hold the eye contact. You do not say a single word. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The psychological shift in the room will be violently immediate. The silence that was meant to embarrass you is now reflecting completely back onto them. The smile will drop from their face. The people around the table will suddenly feel the agonizing tension. Because you refused to react, the person who made the insult is now trapped in the void of their own disrespect. They are forced to endure the suffocating weight of your silence. In almost every case, human nature will force them to break. They will nervously clear their throat. They will look down. They will mutter, "I was just joking," and quickly change the subject. And in that precise moment, you have destroyed them without lifting a finger. You have established an invisible boundary that no one at that table will ever cross again. This psychological weapon is not limited to social insults. It is the dark engine that drives every negotiation, every business deal, and every romantic dynamic in your life. Look at the modern workplace. Your boss gives you a new, massive project with an entirely unreasonable deadline. They look at you, waiting for your response. The weak employee instantly starts nodding, muttering, "Okay, sure, I'll see what I can do." While internally panicking, they fill the silence with submission. The strategic employee looks at the boss, looks at the paper, and remains completely silent. They let the unreasonableness of the request hang heavy in the air. That silence forces the boss to justify their own demand. The boss will often backtrack. I know it's a tight turnaround. We could probably push it to next week if needed. The silence did the negotiating for you. Apply this to the retail world. You are buying a car or negotiating a salary. The other party slides a piece of paper across the desk with a terrible number on it. If you immediately start complaining, arguing, or stating your counteroffer, you are playing their game. If you simply look at the number, look back up at them, and say absolutely nothing, you will watch them mentally collapse. They will squirm in their chair. They will start negotiating against themselves. Well, that's just the initial offer. We might have some flexibility. In romantic relationships, the dynamic is even more unforgiving. If your partner acts distant, and your immediate reaction is to bombard them with questions, asking what's wrong, over and over, you are failing the test. You are proving that your emotional stability is a hostage to their mood. But if they go quiet, and you mirror that quiet with absolute, unbothered calm, focusing entirely on your own mission, you force them to respect your autonomy. You prove that you are an immovable object, and human beings only worship what they cannot move. Think of a dense, tropical jungle. If you walk into the jungle and look around, you will see a chaotic frenzy of movement. The monkeys are screaming in the canopy. The birds are wildly flapping their wings. The small prey animals are constantly twitching, darting from bush to bush, terrified of every snapping twig. Unnecessary movement is the universal biological signature of the weak. It is the physical manifestation of fear. But look down into the dark water of the river. There is a crocodile. It does not twitch. It does not make a sound. It can remain perfectly, terrifyingly still for hours, blending entirely into the mud. It is so comfortable in the silence that the prey forgets it is even there. And when the prey finally steps too close, driven by its own nervous, chaotic energy, the crocodile strikes. Most people live their lives like the monkeys in the canopy. They are a flurry of nervous energy, desperately reacting to every text message, every look, every awkward pause. They broadcast their vulnerability to the entire world. The strategist lives like the apex predator. They are completely comfortable in the deep, still water. They do not waste their energy reacting to the chaos around them. They simply let the weak exhaust themselves, and they only move when it is time to consume. Silence is not an absence of noise. It is the accumulation of lethal potential. To stop failing the silent test, you must rewrite your biological programming. You must train your nervous system to override the desperate urge to please. Here is the tactical framework for mastering the invisible hierarchy. Rule 1. The 3-second law. When someone finishes speaking, do not answer immediately, even if it is a casual question. Take a slow breath. Look them in the eye. Count to 3 in your head. Then deliver your answer. This microscopic delay projects immense, intimidating authority. Rule 2. Erase the justification. When you say no to a request, stop attaching a paragraph of excuses. I cannot attend. That will not work for me. These are complete sentences. An excuse is a hidden plea for forgiveness. The powerful do not ask for forgiveness for prioritizing their own time. Rule 3. Master the unblinking gaze. When someone is trying to emotionally provoke you, visually lock onto them. Do not scowl. Do not look angry. Look entirely blank. Study their face as if they are a fascinating, harmless insect. This drains their aggression instantly. It makes them feel deeply foolish. Rule 4. The strategic pause. When you are speaking and you want absolute control of the room, stop talking in the middle of a sentence. Let the silence hang for a few seconds. Everyone's brain will desperately lock onto you, waiting for the resolution. You control the pacing of reality. This shift in behavior will feel deeply uncomfortable at first. If you have spent your entire life as a people pleaser, your brain will scream at you to fill the silence. You will feel a spike of raw anxiety. You will think, if I don't say something, they will think I am rude. They won't like me. Let me be brutally honest with you. You are correct. Some people will not like it. The manipulators, the users, and the emotional vampires in your life will absolutely hate your new silence. They will hate it because they can no longer control you. They will realize that their invisible strings have been cut. Let them leave. They were parasites feeding on your anxiety. But the people of value, the people whose respect actually matters, they will sense the heavy, iron boundary you have built around your psychology. They will realize that your approval must be earned, not expected. You are evolving from a reactive radio, constantly broadcasting noise, into a deep ocean. You are no longer playing the game of seeking attention. You are playing the game of commanding respect. Every single day is a negotiation for your status. Every pause in conversation is a battlefield. The weak rush forward with their words, desperate to prove they belong. The powerful lean back in silence, knowing they already own the room. Do not let the discomfort of others dictate your actions. Absorb the quiet. Weaponize the stillness. Let them reveal their true nature in the empty space you provide. Words make you common. Silence makes you lethal. Hold your ground. This is the path of Niccolò.